you will be invited, and we'll be rolling out a robust social media campaign on all our platforms, as well as an outdoor media campaign, all designed to educate, enlighten, and empower you in our fight for climate justice.
We want cleaner air.
Caring about the community means caring about the climate. At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe that we really can change the world if we care enough. 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 If we care enough.
KBLA Talk 1580 introducing, I called you a delegation favorite earlier today. He's the author of more than 30 books and 100 scholarly articles and reviews. He's holding the Moores Professorship of History and African American Studies, University of Houston. And he's got a couple of new books out. I feel like I say that almost every time he's on, that he's got a special book signing event. And the I Dare Say a Gerald Horne reader is among his, you know, you're a scholar when you have a reader based on your books. Dr. Gerald Horne, welcome.
Thank you for inviting me.
Second book is Acknowledging Radical Histories with Chris Time Steele. And you're in town. Yay. It must be the Pan-African Film Festival if you're going to be in the vicinity.
Well, absolutely. I landed LAX on Friday. You know that there's a documentary at the film festival on Amiri Baraka.
Yeah, I heard. I need to see that before I can make any comment. Have you seen it? No,
I'm looking forward to it. I'll probably see you at the theater at King and Crenshaw.
Yeah, you probably will. So, Dr. Horne, congratulations. Now, you know, I mean, you are very prolific in putting out books, but now other folks are really, you know, more focused on studying you, which I think is awesome.
Well, I don't know. I got so many skeletons in my closet. I'm getting a little nervous.
Well, everybody has skeletons in their closet. But congrats on your event, and I hope folks will come out. I will definitely be there. It is this weekend. Yeah, I wouldn't miss it. Dr. Gerald Horne will be at the book signing this Saturday from 1 to 3 in Africatown. It's at the Center for Black Power, right?
That is correct. And
1 to 3
hosted by Melina Abdullah.
Well, that's going to be a great event. I'm sure you're going to be speaking, right, and signing books.
Oh, speaking for sure.
Yeah, I almost don't know where to start because there's so much going on right now in the world. But I guess you know, kind of to the alarming trend that you have referenced. To me, the Republicans trying to impeach the Homeland Security Secretary is disturbing because it seems like it is another demarcation of a bad phase for our democracy. I want to call it the demise or a bad phase or however you want to look at it. How do you see it?
Well, clearly, even the Wall Street Journal editorialized against the impending impeachment of Homeland Security Secretary Mayorkas. And I must say, that shocked me because every morning when I open the Wall Street Journal's editorial page, I feel like I'm walking to the mouth of a dragon. And that they would come out against it, I think, says it all. It's the first time in 150 years there's been an attempted impeachment of a cabinet secretary. Now, fortunately, it probably won't go anywhere because it has to get through the Senate controlled by the opposition party. But it's part and parcel of the demagogy of the GOP with regard to immigration. You know that there was a deal worked out between the GOP Senator Langford of Oklahoma and Mr. Biden, but then the Orange Man intervened and said that it would be handing a victory to his opponent in November, and so therefore the deal will apparently be scuttled.
Yeah, I mean it's not amazing to me that happened, but it is pretty wild that we know about it, and yet it doesn't seem to have dented Trump's popularity, at least not yet at all. It's like if you're actually concerned about the border, then this would be bad news. But if you are just concerned about winning elections and making migrants and immigration into an election issue, then that would be good news.
Well, the other issue about the border that we're going to have to keep an eye on is that increasingly Nikki Haley has been making a big deal about the Canadian border. That was one of her issues in New Hampshire. And I think that there's something else to that. I think that there's been a long-term trend in the United States historically with regard to anti-Canadian sentiment, believe it or not. It goes back to the War of 1812. The United States tried to take over Canada. Canada only has a population of about 35 million, and the second largest country by territory, the United States, blessed with immense natural resources. And supposedly, it's now a national security threat because apparently or allegedly, you have folks from Latin America who are going to Canada and then crossing the border into New England, or so that is what we are told.
Yeah, I mean, that did surprise me because what it said to me is that they're not talking about the white folks in Canada coming to the United States. They're talking about the influx of Caribbean and Indian people that are already there in Canada. I don't know. That was the only thing I could make of it.
Well, sure. I mean, if you look at Quebec, which is predominantly French-speaking, the allegation is that Haitians, who, of course, Haiti was formerly colonized by France, and many of them are conversant in French, that they're making their way to Quebec and then somehow making their way into Boston, for example. And Nikki Haley, her campaign has become rather intriguing. You know, she had this big fundraiser yesterday on Wall Street with all of the billionaires flocking to her banner. The Orange Man has said that if you flock to her banner, don't expect any favors.
You're out, yeah.
Incoming administration. But, I think that the Democrats feel that she can continue to wound Mr. Trump as long as she stays in the race. And I think that's one of the reasons why she's being propped up.
Interesting. I had also read that, billionaires were starting to fall in line for Trump. So I hadn't tracked that fundraiser on yesterday. You say it was fairly successful. So because her ability to stay in the race and continue bothering, the 45th president is dependent on those folks continuing to ante up, right? So I wasn't confident that they would, but you're saying it looks like they're going to hang at least for a while.
Oh, yeah. At this fundraiser was Ken Langone, that the NYU Medical School, New York University Medical School, carries his name. Ken Griffin of Citadel Capital, one of the top 0.00001% in the United States of America. Ditto Stanley Druckenmiller, a noted capitalist, but also Jamie Dimon of J.P. Morgan Chase. Recall that just a few days ago, he gave a shout out to Mr. Trump, although supposedly he's a Democrat. saying that Mr. Trump has been proven correct on a number of issues, he said, including immigration, China, NATO, etc.
Yeah, well, and by proven, he means, but I do want to talk a little more when we come forward. I do want to talk a little bit more about immigration because it is an issue that has been prickly in the Black community. I feel like it's getting more so right now, this election cycle. That is going to be something we are going to have to look at. And that, and of course, the disaster in Gaza and the Biden administration's approach to that are both going to play very, very heavily in this election cycle. I want to get your thoughts and insights on that as well. You're listening to Dr. Gerald Horne with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
Substance use disorder and addiction is so isolating. And so, as a Black woman in recovery, hope must be loud. It grows louder when you ask for help and you're vulnerable. It is the thread that lets you know that no matter what happens, you will be okay.
When we learn the power of hope, recovery is possible. Find out how at startwithhope.com. Brought to you by the National Council for Mental Wellbeing, Shatterproof, and the Ad Council.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we do Black history every single day. In fact, as the only Black talk radio station west of the Mississippi, we are Black history. Our annual Black History Month luncheon is fast approaching, and we want to be sure to give you ample time to get your company, organization, church, or group to join us at this year's celebration on the last day of the month, Thursday, February 29th at noon. Last year, we honored iconic local Black media personalities, including Pat Harvey, Jim Hill, Mark Brown, Beverly White, Sandy Banks, and Pat Prescott, and raised $20,000 in scholarships. This year, we're honoring Black Hollywood creatives who have used their artistic genius as climate justice champions. At this year's luncheon, we will be showcasing and sharing their inspiring work on our big screen. Plus, a scrumptious meal, live music, great company, and lots of fun with your favorite KBLA Talk 1580 hosts. So contact us today at info@smileyaudio.media.com or call 323-290-4690. That's info@smileyaudio.media.com or call 323-290-4690. We hope to see you Thursday, February 29th as we close out Black History Month. At KBLA Talk 1580, we've got your Black.
She's so smooth, so... I'm interrupting my own shower to remind you to treat your skin like the queen she is with Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash, packed with Olay's highest level of vitamin B3 complex. It's so moisturizing that it will give you visibly smoother, head-turning skin in just 14 days. People wondering, how'd she get so smooth? Olay Hyaluronic Body Wash. Also, try Olay Hyaluronic Body Lotion.
Some people just know the best places to eat around town. Those are the people who know to choose Allstate. They know exactly where to go to get exactly what you're wanting. They know where to find the spiciest hot pot, the gooeyest brownies, and the tenderest, most flavorful portobello steak. Those people also know that safe drivers save 40% with Allstate.
Saving 40% is based on the national average premium savings for Allstate auto customers with a clean driving record versus those without. Savings vary by state and vary based on how you buy, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
And we do have a lot to talk about, and we're doing it with Dr. Gerald Horne. Always a pleasure to talk with you, Dr. Horne. We're going to, hopefully the KBLA delegation is going to pack out your book signing at the Center for Black Power. That is Saturday in just a few days from 1 to 3 in Leimert Park, Africa Town, USA, hosted by our own Dr. Melina Abdullah, celebrating the brand new books, I Dare Say, a Gerald Horne reader, and acknowledging radical histories, Dr. Horne and Chris Time Steele. So you can do all of that with us this weekend. Looking forward to it. So when you're talking about, immigration and this steady outcries and really, I don't want to say hysteria, but freakouts by Republicans about the crisis at the border. We do know there's been some, according to what, at least the reporting that I'm reading, that there's a surge at the border, that we've got folks showing up. But there's a surge on this side, too, with conservatives having these sort of holy war caravans heading to the border, Texas defying the feds on their border control. And now it seems to have invaded even more the consciousness about black people and whether or not we will support President Biden, even into the reparations conversation, where people are framing this, at least on X, as we can't get reparations because we're giving money to immigrants, which seems apples and oranges-y to me. But how do you perceive this whole, what's become a very dominant and urgent conversation?
It's very distressing, particularly what I've been hearing from Black Chicago with regard to those ex-Twitter conversations that you just referenced. Then there is the danger of the clash, and I mean armed clash, between Texas forces and the U.S. Border Patrol.
Oof.
The fact that Idaho and other red states are now sending their armed forces to the border.
Is that legal?
I assume that unless the forces are federalized by Mr. Biden, which I don't think he'll do, that the governor of Idaho, I assume, can legally send forces wherever he wants. I assume. I'm not really sure.
I mean, I remember I just read about, Kenya can't send cops to Haiti, but Idaho can send cops to Texas. Okay. It's confusing, but I'm not a lawyer. All right. So you were saying it's distressing because now all these other states are sending, I don't know, are they National Guard? Is that what they're sending?
Yeah, that's my understanding.
Okay.
And also, they're the independent forces that you referenced, the so-called Army of God, these Christian evangelicals, right-wing truckers. Remember, right-wing truckers played a pivotal role in Canada some months ago when they tried to tie up the Capitol on their anti-COVID vaccine campaign. And so the situation is really spinning out of control. Now, with regard to black people, I'd like to warn black people that even though it appears that the immigrants are now being targeted, that can possibly just set a precedent that will then allow for the targeting of us, that is to say, black people. And we should not forget that in the 19th century, many of our ancestors were trying to flee into Latin America, particularly Mexico. And that was a factor leading to Texas seeking to secede from the United States of America because Mexico would not return the enslaved Africans across the border, which led Texas to try to secede from the United States because they thought the United States was not moving aggressively enough to back up Texas in that regard. So it's a very complicated, emotion-driven issue, and it does not bode well.
For me, I can't even understand how it's legal for your governor, Governor Abbott. I don't mean to blame you personally for him, but the Texas governor and others to send migrants across borders. Isn't that human trafficking or, I don't know, Mann Act? Or it just seems like it should be illegal. But that's, I think that is adding to that conversation and perception in places like Texas. Chicago.
Well, there are lawsuits, as I understand it, with regard to Governor Abbott busing migrants to Denver, to Chicago,
Los Angeles,
New York. Exactly.
Which we're already a border state, so why are you sending us your folks?
And of course, the courts are dominated by the right wing. So even if it is ruled upon by the courts, I don't think we can be optimistic about the migrants prevailing in court. So it's really a dire situation. It's really sad too because I've seen pictures of migrants in New York City sleeping shoeless in the snow, for example, because there's not enough space and homeless shelters for them.
Well, I mean, but there's not enough space in homeless shelters for people that are already here. I mean, I think that's part of part of why this is hitting the way it is. My analysis for Black people is because we do have, Office of New Americans. We do have, shelters to the extent that we have them, and detention, which isn't great, for people that are seeking asylum here. And Black people are dying on the streets, homeless.
That's true. I mean, part of the complication is the fact that if you look at many of the migrants are from Venezuela. We know that there's been this campaign against Venezuela going back towards the regime of Mr. Trump that has not dissipated. About a third of Venezuela's population has been heading north. And certainly, if we want to do something ultimately about this migrant issue, we're going to have to change U.S. foreign policy towards Venezuela, for example. Now, I thought that was in motion because there had been a deal worked out for Venezuela to release some U.S. nationals that they had been holding in prison. But apparently I was mistaken, and the sanctions against Venezuela continue, and the economic situation there continues to decompose.
Yeah, that surprised me too, because it sounded like they were trying to have some kind of diplomatic reapproachment since they need that oil and stuff. I heard it was all about the oil. But the Biden foreign policy continues to be very conservative.
Well, you know what I think. I think that part of the problem with the Democratic Party is that there are not that many Black voices weighing in on Democratic Party foreign policy. Not that many Black voices weighing in on Venezuela. You have a lot of Black intellectuals who hide under their desks when it comes to commenting on Gaza, for example, because they don't want to be hounded
or
by
fired.
The Zionists, or fired, like what happened to the president of Harvard University, for example. So I understand that point of view, and I'm not unsympathetic. But the problem is that it gives too much power and potency to the neocons in the Democratic Party. For example, Victoria Nuland, who's a top leader in the State Department, to name one amongst many.
Yeah, that's interesting. I kind of feel like that as progressives, or even Democrats who aren't progressive, they're going to have to face the music as far as whether it's perception driven or whether it's actually reality based. They're going to have to face the music that there are lots of Black Americans who feel like you are more concerned about making sure that, asylum seekers, refugees, immigrants are fed and clothed and in tents than Black people. I think that's something. Whatever you think about that analysis, that Democrats and progressives are going to have to deal with it, because that has always been there, and it feels like it's gaining traction right now.
Well, certainly. I mean, I think obviously the United States, still carrying the title as the richest country in the world, has enough resources to deal with both issues.
Yep.
But obviously there's a logjam with regard to dealing with both issues, because you have a Republican Party base that operates in a demagogic manner towards the migrant question and operates with a demagogic manner towards domestic spending on housing, on health care, and on education. And that's the stumbling block. And, of course, you have weaknesses within the Democratic Party base and coalition as well on both issues.
Yeah. I think that's right. Okay, look, we've got Dwight from Compton on the phone. I know he's not going to be able to hit it before news, traffic, and sports, but at least you can start. You can ask your question to Dr. Gerald Horne. Go ahead, Dwight.
Thank you, Dominique. Good morning, Dr. Horne. I thank you for all the great information you give us, Dominique. Thank you. Happy Black History Month starting tomorrow. Dr. Horne, your information is so correct. These Republicans say one thing and do another thing. They try to take credit for things that they vote against, and then they go to the ribbon cutting ceremony. So they're just liars and domestic terrorists. Basically, they do everything to attack our country, and then turn around and try to take credit for the things that the Democrats try to force through with blood, sweat, and tears. But Dominique, I know you got to cut right now, so I'll finish whatever comments I have on the other end.
Okay, well, we got 60 seconds. You want to respond, Dr. Horne, to what Dwight said?
Well, Dwight is right on. He should be running for office, in fact.
Maybe, yeah. Dwight, you going to run?
Oh, no, I probably would get attacked too much. They probably send people after me. I'm scared enough just to call in, Dominique.
Yeah.
But I do support everything I can as far as the KBLA tells me to go to the events and things like that, and sign surveys and vote. I do everything I can on that end.
I love it. Well, then we'll see you on Saturday at the Center for Black Power, where Dr. Gerald Horne will be signing books, lecturing, probably chopping it up with the people there, and that's in Leimert Park, Africatown, USA, right at Crenshaw and 43rd Place, not 43rd Street, 43rd Place, right there where the Leimert Park Metro stop is. I'm Dominique DiPrima with Dr. Gerald Horne for KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention is warning of a syphilis resurgence nationwide with the highest number of cases since 1950. The CDC says more than 207,000 syphilis cases were reported in the U.S. in 2022, an 80% increase since 2018. Blacks and Native Americans are the most impacted groups. Ohio's Attorney General is working with state lawmakers on a bill that would allow the state to conduct executions using nitrogen gas. Legislation on the issue was introduced yesterday. Alabama became the first state to use the method last week by administering pure nitrogen gas to death row inmate Kenneth Smith until his body was deprived of oxygen. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network and BINnews.com.
For victims of drunk and drug driving, our grief is unique. But you are not alone. You always have a place at MAD. Call our 24-hour victim helpline at 877-MAD-HELP or visit mad.org.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
Another poor defensive effort by the Lakers led to another loss Tuesday night. The Lakers gave up 138 points to Atlanta. They lost by 16. Over the past two games, the Lakers have given up a combined 273 points. The Lakers did not have Anthony Davis. He sat out with a sore left hip and a sore Achilles tendon. Austin Reeves led the Lakers with 28 points. LeBron had 20 points and 8 assists. The Lakers are back under 500 for the 14th time this season. They're at Boston Thursday night. The Clippers are back in action tonight. They're at Washington. Game 4 of their 7-game road trip, 4 p.m. tip-off. Former Lakers guard Rajon Rondo is in trouble. Rondo was arrested after he was pulled over on a highway in southern Indiana. Rondo was charged with illegal possession of a gun and drugs possession. Rondo helped the Lakers win the NBA championship in 2021. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Got me a damn girl on my team.
At KBLA Talk 1580, we believe we have the best tag team in morning radio. Dominique DiPrima and Tavis Smiley. As the first black woman in Los Angeles to anchor a morning drive talk radio show, Dominique covers local politics like a blanket. Weekday mornings from 6 a.m. to 9 a.m. At 9 a.m., Dominique passes the baton to Tavis Smiley, who talks to everybody about everything every day until 12 noon. KBLA's dynamic duo, Dominique and Tavis. It's no wonder the LA Civil Rights Department is honoring Dominique DiPrima this year at its Tell Our Story honoring black journalist leaders and storytellers event, Thursday, February 8th. Or that the John M. Langston Bar Association of Los Angeles is honoring Tavis Smiley at its 47th Annual Installation and Scholarship Awards Gala with its Community Impact Award on February 10th. We couldn't be more proud of Dominique and Tavis, who make black history every day, not just in February. If you're missing Dominique and Tavis weekday mornings on KBLA Talk 1580, you're missing out. We're KBLA Talk 1580, and we've got your black.
Holla, yeah.
Hello, I'm John McKinney, your candidate for District Attorney. As an African American who has served our community for over 25 years, I'm proud to have successfully convicted the killer of Nipsey Hussle, standing up for justice where it matters most. But my commitment extends beyond the courtroom. I'm deeply invested in youth development. And when it comes to our police, I believe in accountability. It is essential that those who protect us are also responsible to us, reflecting the values and integrity of our community. This election, I ask for your vote. I am John McKinney, and I'm running to be your district attorney. Learn more at McKinneyforLA.com.
Paid for by John McKinney for LA District Attorney 2024.
Taco Bell just dropped the new Cravings Value Menu. Now you can get 10 items for $3 or less, which means you can get the food you want for the price you want. It's almost like you can have your cake and eat it too. But in this case, it's a double-stacked taco from the new Cravings Value Menu. So basically, you can have your double-stacked taco and eat it too, which is a lot crunchier than cake. The new Cravings Value Menu is here. Get it at Taco Bell today. At participating U.S. Taco Bell locations while supplies last. Contact store for price and participation which vary. Tax extra.
Jim was at the laundromat when he heard. His ear said, "Maraca, senor," but his nose said, "Hey, freshest scent ever." Following his nose, Jim found a man pouring Gain scent beads into the washer. The scent, the freshness. Jim blurted, "Sir, your scent Maraca smell amazing." You could call them scent maracas, but most noses call them Gain scent beads. Try Gain scent beads. Way fresher than detergent alone.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where everybody is somebody and nobody is a stranger. You belong here.
Talking with Dr. Gerald Horne and you, 800-920-1580, 800-920-1580. If you want to get in the conversation, you are always welcome around here. And I want to give Dwight from Compton a chance to land. Of course, Dr. Gerald Horne, author of more than 30 books. He is a professor, and he's a YouTube influencer as well. You just go to YouTube, type in his name, and you'll see a bunch of his lectures. You can come hear him in person if you're in Los Angeles on Saturday, 1 to 3, at the Center for Black Power in Leimert Park, Africatown, USA. So, Dwight, go ahead and land, or if you want to direct a question toward Dr. Horne, go ahead and do that.
Yes, Dr. Horne, again, thank you for all the great information. And Dominique, these Republicans are such liars, and they're basically domestic terrorists. It's so obvious that they say one thing on TV and then do another thing. And a lot of these things, to me, Dominique, I know we're not a religious show in the Bible. When Satan tried to overthrow, led an insurrection in heaven, God kicked him out. So basically, the 14th Amendment says if you try to lead an insurrection against America, you cannot hold any government office. And so they try to find any way they can to not follow the U.S. Constitution. These fake Christian don't follow the Bible. So, Dr. Horne, thank you for keep putting the truth out there. And Dominique, thank you for the great information you give us every day. Thank you, guys. Thank KBLA for the great information they've given us.
Take it away, Dr. Horne. Thank you, Dwight.
Well, I think Dwight has a point with regard to the 14th Amendment barring insurrectionists from high office. Interestingly enough, in California, Shirley Weber, the Secretary of State, has ruled otherwise, suggesting that Mr. Trump should be allowed on the ballot in California. But, of course, since we know he's going to lose California, I'm not sure if that's going to be that meaningful. And the same decision was made in Illinois, and we know he's going to lose Illinois as well. Now, the point is, however, is that the U.S. Supreme Court is going to rule on whether Colorado has been properly preventing him from being on the ballot in that state, along with Maine. And there's a possibility that he could win those two states. And that's where the rubber will hit the road. And I dare say that the U.S. Supreme Court will probably rule in Mr. Trump's favor.
Yeah,
I'll be
surprised
if they don't.
Yeah, surprise. But interesting points, because I guess in that sense, California dodges a later problem by keeping him on the ballot. Because if the Supreme Court says he has to stay, he's already on our ballot, and most of us don't really care, because we're not going to vote for him anyway. So many things, so little time, Dr. Horne. Talk to me about South Africa's case at the UN charging Israel with genocide and what their ruling really means. Because to me, it sounded like, try to do better. But then, of course, that's a preliminary decision, and this could last for years, right?
It could last for years, but on the other hand, it was of profound significance. I think that those of us who were toiling in the vineyards during the dark days of apartheid, we should feel vindicated, because the African National Congress government, which has been under severe criticism by many of those who supported them in the pre-1994 era, has vindicated our support. And even if you accept the critique of their detractors, that is to say there's an election coming up in South Africa, and supposedly the ANC government is seeking to pander to the sentiments of the electorate by dragging Israel before the International Court of Justice. Well, actually, that speaks well for the electorate, that issue plays well with the black majority in South Africa. On the other hand, Israel is going to have to report to the International Court of Justice within 30 days as to what they've been doing with regard to alleviating the humanitarian disaster in Gaza. We don't expect them actually to comply, and of course they'll be protected by the United States when their refusal to comply is referred to the United Nations Security Council when the United States wields a veto. But what we need to realize is that there's a special maneuver in the General Assembly that includes 190-plus nations, which under a certain formula could vote to sanction Israel, could vote to expel Israel from the United Nations and move to expel it from other multilateral agencies and bodies. And ultimately, I think it was noteworthy that South Africa joined the United States and the UK, Great Britain, as aiders and abettors of Israel. And therefore, Washington and London should be concerned as well, which brings me to the recent trip to Africa of U.S. Secretary of State Anthony Blinken. I don't find it coincidental that Mr. Blinken visited Angola. Now, you might recall that a few decades ago, the United States was campaigning against Angolan independence up to and including supporting and supplying rebels who were fighting with arms in hand. But now I think they're trying to woo Angola as a part of this antipathy towards South Africa. So the plot becomes ever more complicated.
That is complicated. One thing that I was struck by when I was in South Africa in 2023 is that just regular, I talked to a lot of regular South Africans, like, workers, whatever. And many of them were, to my analysis, to the left of the ANC, feeling like they needed to take a harder line in finishing the job of getting rights and really reparations for Black South Africans.
Oh, certainly. And I'm sure you heard the latest news is that former President Jacob Zuma has been suspended from the ANC because he's supporting a party, the so-called MK party, that's running against the ANC in the upcoming elections. And by the way, the New York Times has been misleading its readers about South Africa. They suggested that many Jewish South Africans were opposed to the South African petition against Israel. What they didn't point out is that many Jewish South Africans were not necessarily supporting Zionism during the days of apartheid. They were opposed to Israel because of its nuclear collaboration with the apartheid regime, because of its being in bed with the apartheid regime. And so to suggest that Jewish South Africans as a bloc are hostile to the ANC government, I thought was terribly misleading.
Well, that I couldn't speak on because I'm not familiar, but it's an interesting dynamic, and it's a reminder that even our more legit news agencies require some further investigation and media literacy, right?
Well, let me give you some names. Joe Slovo, Lithuanian Jewish descent. He was the head of the armed wing of the ANC, one of Mandela's closest comrades. He, of course, was quite critical of Israel, as was his late spouse, Ruth First, blown up by a letter bomb from the apartheid authorities while she was in exile in Mozambique. She had a similar position. She, too, was Jewish. Ronnie Kasrils, Jewish, who, of course, was also part of the armed wing of the ANC. He's still in the land of the living. He's been campaigning against Israeli depredations in Gaza, marching against Israel in the streets of Pretoria. So this is what I mean about when having to monitor even the so-called legitimate media.
Yeah, and is that why you read I don't know, I think it's 7 or 8 papers a day?
Well, if not more, because
If not
you
more.
have to see if there's a consistent line or a consistent through line, and oftentimes there's not.
A consistent through line. I find I don't read 7 or 8. I probably should, but I find if I go to the Wall Street Journal or the Weekly Standard, something that I consider pretty far to the right, and then I look at the Nation or the Huffington Post, just by that range and the different way they report, I'm able to ascertain a lot of the time what's really going on.
Oh, sure. And the Nation, I think, has been upholding the progressive banner, generally speaking, particularly with regard to Israel, which is no easy matter, since they're headquartered in New York, which is the headquarters of Zionism, which helps to account for the fact why so many black New York politicians have been unsteady and wavering on this issue, including Mayor Eric Adams, who, of course, may be defeated in the upcoming election.
I mean, but Mayor Eric Adams is black, but he's no progressive.
Well, to put it mildly, but I'm also thinking of...
Yeah, he's like their
Gregory...
Villanueva. Sorry,
I'm also thinking of Gregory Meeks, the member of the Congressional Black Caucus from Southeast Queens, and Speaker-in-Waiting Hakeem Jeffries, for example. The commentator, Reverend Al Sharpton. All of them have been quite unsteady on this Gaza question.
We're talking with Dr. Gerald Horne, and you can be brave like Dwight from Compton and call 800-920-1580. Otherwise, don't worry about it. I've got us covered. You are listening to Unapologetically Progressive KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
Watch out! You got me!
The galaxy is safe once again.
In the pretend universe, kids play with pretend guns. In the real world, it's up to us to make sure they don't get their hands on a real gun. If you have a gun in the house, keep it locked, unloaded, and stored separately from ammunition. Safe gun storage saves lives. Learn how to make your home safer at endfamilyfire.org. That's endfamilyfire.org. Brought to you by End Family Fire, Brady, and the Ad Council.
City of Los Angeles landlords that own rent-controlled properties, starting February 1st, you'll be able to increase rents by 4% for your rent-controlled properties. An extra 1% per utility, up to 6%, can be added only if you pay the entire gas and electric bill. And don't forget to give your tenant an advance 30-day written notice for rent increases of less than 10%. It is state law. Learn more about the rent increase at housing.lacity.org. That's housing.lacity.org.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
What's up? I'm Danelle Riley, FAMU alumni and creator of the HBCU Culture Shop. I am so proud of my new partnership with Black Beyond Measure and Target. They help me elevate community pride with my HBCU designs and continue to support Black creators and entrepreneurs with Target HBCU challenges, scholarship programs, and campus collaborations. Let's come together this homecoming season and beyond. Shop my brand and discover other Black-owned products at target.com/blackbeyondmeasure.
We all agree that America has a very serious problem.
Okay, KBLA delegation, we need your help as we launch our 2024 Climate Justice Campaign. We would deeply appreciate you going to our KBLA 1580 website and filling out a short climate justice survey, which will help us better serve our beloved community as we build out this campaign. It'll take you just a few short minutes to complete the online survey, and the information you provide us will be invaluable as we do our part to hold folk accountable and amplify the voices of our people in this climate conversation. When you take the survey, you'll be automatically entered to win seats at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 29th. So, hit our website at KBLA 1580. Help us out by taking the short climate justice campaign survey, and you could be our guest at our annual Black History Month luncheon, Thursday, February 29th. Thank you in advance for your consideration and cooperation. At KBLA Talk 1580, we care about the community, we care about the climate. We care about the climate. Broadcasting live from Leimert Park, USA. Welcome back to your home for unapologetically progressive radio, KBLA Talk 1580.
We are talking with Dr. Gerald Horne. Man, I don't know how we're going to get all this in one segment here, Dr. Horne. But you mentioned Blinken's trip to Africa, and we've intermittently talked about how the United States is trying to solidify their position. You were contrasting that with the relationship now with South Africa, the strained relationship with South Africa. We've even talked about AFRICOM and the U.S. military presence there. Do you think any of that is working? I mean, folks are paranoid about China, having a foothold in Africa, but increasingly I feel like it's become more of an international battle, increasingly over African resources, both mineral and human.
Well, I don't think that the U.S. will be able to woo Angola away from the embrace of South Africa. I think the relationship is too close. On the other hand, I think Angola will willingly accept U.S. aid, will willingly accept the U.S. proposal to build a railway in Angola. Why not? Why look a gift horse in the mouth? Now, with regard to Nigeria, which was also part of that trip, that's another story, because Nigeria, along with India, has been, shall we say, lethargic in coming to the defense of the Palestinians. I think this has something to do with the conflict that the government in Abuja has with the so-called Boko Haram, these religious zealots who kidnap teenage girls and who portray themselves as being Muslim. And, of course, the Hindu chauvinist government in New Delhi has a similar issue with regard to Islamophobia. And then, of course, Nigeria is jousting with South Africa for leadership on the continent. Until recently, South Africa had the number one economy. Now Nigeria has the number one economy. I don't know if you recall this film that was released or distributed through Hollywood called District 9, which came out of South Africa, admittedly white South Africa, that portrayed Nigerians as like monsters from outer space.
I didn't see that. I do remember hearing about it. Now I want to see it. Hey, Dr. Horne, do you have anything that you've seen or you're looking forward to seeing at the Pan-African, by the way? Because I know you're a connoisseur of the Pan-African Film Festival.
Well, of course, I'm going to see the documentary about Amiri Baraka. I'm going to see the documentary about Max Roach, the late, great drummer and percussionist. I'm going to see the documentary Bar Daddy about this black guy who's helped so many black law students pass the bar exam and become lawyers. I'm going to see the documentary Gaining Ground about black land loss in the South. I'm going to see the documentary called Becoming Black about this woman who we would call black who lives in Germany, who, of course, was mixed heritage, European and African, and how she came to acknowledge the African side of her roots. So that's just and then, of course, the opening night is this film called Hip Hop Story, which seems to be a sort of play on the life of Russell Simmons, the hip-hop impresario, who I understand is in self-imposed exile in Indonesia, of all places. I don't know if you've heard about that story.
Yeah, I actually have heard about it. I can't say I've done a deep dive. There's so much chaos in hip hop right now. Yeah, but I don't need to look at my booklet. I can now just go with your recommendations. Let's go to Fahima. Excuse me, I want to go to Bobby from LA, then we'll go to Fahima. Bobby from LA, go ahead. Short version, if you would.
Hey, Dominique, how are you?
Good. What's on your mind?
Mr. Horne, do you think Mr. Trump will appoint Senator Tim Scott as his VP? And I'll be quick about it.
Okay. That's an easy question.
I think it's possible. I don't know how much he brings to the ticket because Mr. Trump will probably win South Carolina in a romp. He may want to appoint a woman, however, to counter the Vice President Harris, for example.
And that woman wouldn't be Nikki Haley.
Oh, no. I mean,
not anymore.
No.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, I don't think so either. I think he's groveling for no reason. Groveling, getting engaged, and all this, the usual Negro routines. I think he's doing it all for naught, Bobby. We'll get some. We'll get in a quick other question and some final thoughts from Dr. Horne when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
The station you turn to when you've had it up to gear with cultural incompetence. KBLA Talk 1580.
Some people just know the best places to eat around town. Those are the people who know to choose Allstate. They know exactly where to go to get exactly what you're wanting. They know where to find the spiciest hot pot, the gooeyest brownies, and the tenderest, most flavorful portobello steak. Those people also know that safe drivers save 40% with Allstate.
Saving 40% is based on the national average premium savings for Allstate auto customers with a clean driving record versus those without. Savings vary by state and vary based on how you buy, subject to terms, conditions, and availability. Allstate Fire and Casualty Insurance Company and affiliates, Northbrook, Illinois.
Mr. Clean. Of course I use Mr. Clean Magic Eraser to clean tough messes off my stovetop and bathtub. But then I discovered I can also use it to easily clean my patio furniture and even my shoes. I'm hooked.
And when wipes won't cut it, I use Magic Eraser Sheets. They're thin and flexible erasers, perfect for everyday messes, like gunk on my counters and sinks. They really are magical.
The reviews are in. Mr. Clean Magic Eraser and Sheets make cleaning look easy.
Get the appliances you need right away at Lowe's. Explore the largest assortment of brands you trust, like Whirlpool, Samsung, and LG, in-store or online at the best values. Plus, take advantage of our everyday financing offers on top items, from refrigerators to laundry pairs. And there's more. Get your new appliances delivered or installed quickly at your convenience. Because Lowe's knows appliances, Lowe's knows home improvement. Subject to credit approval.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
Continuing right now and watching my minutes here with Dr. Gerald Horne. Fahima from D.C., can you do it real quick for me?
Yes, really quickly, Habarigani and K-Pasa, Dominique. Have you talked about Ilhan Omar? Because I just stepped out of Twitterverse and just tuned in late. Did you talk about Ilhan Omar?
No, we have not. We have not talked about it.
Okay. Yeah, in the interest of time, could Dr. Horne talk about Ilhan Omar's situation?
Oh, as you know, she's of Somali ancestry, the congresswoman from Minneapolis, and she's under fire because what happened is that she weighed in on the controversy between Ethiopia and her ancestral homeland. Speaking of Somalia, Somalia is very upset with Ethiopia because they've cut a deal with the runaway alleged province of Somaliland in order to get access to the sea, and her detractors in the Republican Congress are now saying that she put Somalia first. I don't know how that works. But also, with regard to the squad, you know that Congresswoman Cori Bush of St. Louis, who's also black, very progressive, and taken a very progressive position on the ceasefire, she's now being investigated by the U.S. Justice Department. It reminds me of the Fani Willis case in Atlanta, insofar as part of the issues seems to be her allocating campaign funds for security to her recently wed spouse who has a background in security.
Yeah, well, I mean, those things don't sound good on paper. The Fani Willis, the Cori Bush. I think it's a little different than Ilhan Omar because it's blatantly political, right?
Oh, yeah. I mean, it's really twisting her word. I mean, first of all, there was a translation issue because she was speaking in Somali and the Somali language, and then the Somaliland leaders in the United States, they did a translation that then the Republicans picked up on. And so obviously something was lost in translation. So I think that issue will blow away rather shortly. The Cori Bush and Fani Willis cases, I think, are a horse of a different color.
I mean, you know, it sounds like they may have made poor decisions. I haven't seen any evidence, but it does also feel like a targeting of black women in leadership.
clearly. I mean, even the Fonnie Willis case, I think there's an innocent explanation, but I don't know if you'll encounter that even in the so-called legitimate media. And the Cori Bush issue, I mean, here she's facing death threats on a regular basis.
Yep.
The amount at play is only like $30,000, which is chicken feed in Congress. And the fact that the Justice Department under a Democrat is doing the investigation, something smells.
Yeah, it's it really is. Some of the moves of this administration just baffle my mind. We could do a whole show on that, but we don't have time today. Hopefully we'll do it another day, and I will see you Saturday, Dr. Gerald Horne. I will see you Saturday at your book signing in Leimert Park at the Center for Black Power.
Thank you for inviting me.
Thank you so much for coming, as always. My quote today, we're going to Nelson Mandela. If you talking about South Africa, he says, "It always seems impossible until it's done." Put that in your pipe and smoke it. LA County, I'm Dominique DiPrima. Tavis Smiley is up next. He's got a stacked show for you today, too. It's Wednesday. Why not? Don't forget to tap in with me at social media, KBLA 1580 on every platform. Find me at DiPrima Radio, DIPRIMA, and then radio. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. The Centers for Disease bill that would allow the state to conduct executions using nitrogen gas. Legislation on the issue was